So you want to build a garden that's absolutely buzzing with life, right? But you're in Calgary, and let's be honest, our climate can be, well, tough. But creating a pollinator paradise here is totally possible. The payoff is huge, a gorgeous, thriving backyard ecosystem. So how exactly do we pull it off?
Yeah, let's not sugarcoat it. Trying to grow things here can really feel like an uphill battle sometimes. We've got this cold, dry, continental climate that plays by its own set of rules. This isn't your typical easygoing gardening situation. And this little number right here, this is the heart of the matter. We are officially in hardiness zone 4A, and that little 4A tells you everything you need to know about our super short growing seasons and our very, very chilly winters. It basically sets the rules for what can survive here and, more importantly, what can't. But don't worry, there's a secret to making it work.
And here it is. This is the big mindset shift. You have to stop fighting our climate and start working with it. The trick is to start thinking like our native pollinators, like a bee. And why is that? Well, because our native plants are already perfectly designed to thrive right here. And guess what? They're the exact food and shelter our native bees need. It's a perfect partnership. Okay, so let's jump into rule number 1, and this one is the most important. You need to think of your garden as a 5-star all-you-can-eat buffet. Just like us, pollinators need to eat, and they need that food to be available from the second they wake up in the spring right up until they hunker down for the fall. So, what does a rockstar pollinator buffet look like? Well, first, it's got to be open all season long. We're talking flowers blooming one after another, continuously. Next up, the menu. Bees are super attracted to colors like blue, yellow, and purple. You also want a variety of flower shapes to serve all your different customers. Some bees have long tongues for those tube-shaped flowers, while others need a flatter landing pad. And finally, you have to serve it up big. And that last point is a huge one. Planting in big groups, think clumps of 3, 5, even 8 plants or more, makes it so much more efficient for a bee to find food. It's like a one-stop shop. A single lonely flower is kind of like driving by a restaurant that's closed. It's just not worth the energy. But a big, dense patch, that's a massive, blinking neon sign they just can't miss. And I really, really have to stress this. Those very first flowers you see popping up in the spring, they're not just a pretty sight for us after a long winter. They are an actual lifeline. They are the crucial first meal for queen bees coming out of hibernation. This gives them the energy boost they absolutely need to go out and start a brand new colony. Okay, so we've got the buffet sorted out. Let's move on to rule number 2. And this is all about real estate. Because, pollinators don't just need food. They need safe places to live, to nest, and to raise their young. It's time to build them a 5-star bee hotel. And believe me, you are going to have plenty of guests. Right here in Alberta, we're home to over 300 different species of native bees. We're talking everything from those big, fuzzy bumblebees we all know to tiny little metallic green sweat bees. Now here's the kicker. Most of these guys aren't like honeybees living in a big hive. Nope, the vast majority are solitary, which means each female builds her own tiny little nest all by herself. And these solitary bees nest in 2 main ways. About 70% of them are ground nesters, so all you have to do is leave a little patch of bare, sunny, undisturbed dirt for them. Easy. The other 30% or so are stem nesters. They're looking for hollow plant stems or little tunnels in dead wood. Seriously, it's that simple to provide both types of homes in your yard. So here it is, your official permission to be a little lazy with the garden cleanup. What we might call messy, leaving the leaves on the ground in the fall or letting old flower stalks stand all winter, is actually a perfect, safe, insulated home for tons of overwintering insects, including our native bees. Okay, but when it is finally time for that big spring cleanup, this is the magic number you have got to remember: 10 degrees Celsius. And the rule is super simple. Just wait. Wait until the daytime temperatures are consistently staying above 10 degrees Celsius for a solid 2 or 3 weeks. That little bit of patience is absolutely critical. It gives all those sleepy insects that survive the winter in your garden enough time to safely wake up and fly away before you come through with the rake and clippers. All right, now we get to the really fun part. We've talked about food, we've talked about shelter, so let's get down to the "what should I actually plant?" question. Here are some of the absolute tried-and-true native plant all-stars for any Calgary garden.
So we're going to break this down by season, just to make sure that Pollinator Buffet stays open from the very beginning to the very end. We'll cover early spring, the peak of midsummer, and that super important late fall season.
For that critical early spring window, the prairie crocus is an absolute icon. You'll see these fuzzy little flowers pushing right through the last of the snow, offering one of the very first meals of the year. And hey, don't just think about flowers on the ground. Shrubs like Saskatoon or gooseberry are absolute powerhouses of pollen, and they are vital for those emerging queen bees.
Now, when midsummer hits, you want plants that are real workhorses. Wild bergamot, with its funky, shaggy flowers, is an absolute bee magnet. Blanket flower gives you those amazing fiery reds and yellows, and it's so tough and drought tolerant. But the harebell, this one is fascinating. Its delicate little bell-shaped flowers actually support a specialist native bee, an insect that has evolved to rely on that one specific plant. How cool is that? That's the real power of native gardening.
And finally, to close out the season strong, goldenrod and native asters are completely non-negotiable. As all the other flowers are starting to fade, their bright yellows and purples provide that final, critical energy boost. This is the meal that helps those queen bees build up the fat reserves they need to survive our long, cold winter.
Okay, we've covered food, we've covered shelter, and we've covered the plants. But none of it, and I mean none of it, matters without this final golden rule. This is the one that holds everything else together.
And this quote just says it all perfectly. If a product kills an ant, it will likely hurt a bee. Think about that. Insecticides aren't picky. The stuff you use to kill one type of insect can and absolutely will harm the beneficial ones you're trying so hard to attract. So the bottom line is this: you have to avoid all pesticides. Period. There is no gray area here, no negotiation. You just can't create a safe haven for pollinators while at the same time using chemicals that are designed to kill insects. It's one or the other. You see, in the end, creating a pollinator paradise is really about changing how you see things. It's about seeing your garden not just as a collection of pretty plants, but as a living, breathing ecosystem that you have the power to support and be a part of. So, the real question is, what will you choose to grow?